Hello everyone, welcome. So today we're going to be doing something a little bit different than some of my other classes. Today we're going to be focusing on wrist exercises that will strengthen the wrist but also create some more mobility in the wrist. And these exercises will be good for preparing the wrists for any kind of weight bearing that we're going to be doing either in our yoga classes or maybe going into handstands, chaturanga, push-up, going on our hands and knees. So any kind of weight bearing where we have our weight into our hands and weight potentially coming into our wrists. So let's start in a comfortable seated position, and we're going to reach the arms forward, arms just about shoulder distance apart. From here, we're going to reach the fingertips up towards the ceiling so the palms are facing away from you. And then we're going to bring the fingertips down so the palms are facing towards you. So just extending and flexing the wrists a few times, and maybe about 10 times. And as you do this, I want you to think of when the fingertips are going down and the palms are facing you, I want you to think of the palm of the hand coming back towards you and not just the fingertips. So you're really getting engagement in some of those forearm muscles to get the wrist moving. Nice. So once you've done about 10 of those, and not too slow, not too fast, as we go through these exercises, we want to keep the movement quite dynamic. Keep the wrists straight so the fingertips are just pointing straight ahead, and then you're going to kind of point the fingertips kind of diagonally over to the right and then kind of over to the left. So you're kind of doing a lateral movement with the wrists here. Again, going back and forth. So all of these exercises that we're doing, we're going to do about 10 times, but if you like these exercises and continue doing them, you can go up to 20, 30 times each exercise. Nice. And from here, we're going to do wrist circles. So coming to a neutral place with the wrists, fingertips pointing up, and then coming back to that kind of lateral position. So you want to make sure that we're not rotating the entire forearm. It's just the wrist that's moving, and then fingertips point down, palms coming back towards you, and then over to the left, and then back up. So as you're doing this, going in one direction a few times and then reversing that and going to the left, again, noticing if you're moving the forearm as you make those circles, which is often what we do, and trying to keep the forearm still and then really just moving at the wrist joint. So we're getting into some of those angles of the wrist that maybe we're not accustomed moving in. Yeah, if you haven't already done so, changing direction. Nice, big circles, keeping track of those forearms, keeping them still for this one. Arms are still reaching out, maybe the shoulders are getting a little bit of a warm up and work here as well. And then let this be your last circle, and then kind of shake the fingertips out, shake the hands out. And then we're going to come onto our hands. So bring our hands to the floor. So for the next few exercises, we're going to be basically on our hands and knees. So depending on how your wrists are feeling, how new you are to weight bearing in your hands, how much strength you have, for less weight into the arms and hands, you bring the knees closer to the hands. For more weight, you walk the knees back. So the further the knees are away from the hands, is the more weight bearing you'll have in the hands. So from here, choosing how you want to position your legs, we're going to gently rock side to side. So bring some weight into the right hand and over to the left hand. And as we do that, I want you to change positions with the hands. So fingertips can point out, fingertips can point back towards you. You can go onto the knuckles, you can go onto the fingertips, you can go onto like the side of the hand, the outside of the hand, the inside of the hand, maybe onto a certain thumb or pinky finger as you rock side to side. So just kind of getting into all these kind of funky positions. Maybe the back of the hand comes down to the mat. And just being mindful that some of these positions we're not accustomed putting weight into. So maybe not putting a ton of weight until you feel like, first of all, you're warmed up, and also that you are building the strength needed for that. Nice. So after we've done that, let's bring the hands flat to the mat, and you're going to point the fingertips out to the sides. And we're going to keep with that leaning side to side, so bringing weight into one hand and into the other. But as you lean to one side, you're going to gently push off with the other hand. So if you lean to the right, you're going to gently push off with the left, and gently push off as you lean to the left, push off with the right. Gently rocking side to side like this, and gently pushing and pushing, pushing, pushing. Nice. So just kind of getting weight into the hands, some movement into the wrists, warming everything up, creating some strength. And again, as you get stronger, as you get familiar, you can do more repetitions of these little exercises. These are good exercises also to do as warm-ups for your handstand practice, for any kind of push-ups that you're going to do. Nice. So from here, let's bring the hands flat, and we're going to bring the fingertips pointing forward, fingers spread wide, and we're going to lean forward into the fingertips. And as you lean forward into the fingertips, I want you to gently press into the fingertips. So you're almost resisting the leaning forward a bit. So you're not just leaning forward and pushing into the front of the wrist, but you're gently pushing away from that with the fingertips. So pressing into the floor with the fingertips as you lean forward. So doing that a few times. And then when you're ready, kind of making circles with the whole body, so that you're going around and then pushing forward. And the same thing goes as you begin to push forward, you're gently pushing into the fingertips as well. So gently pushing away from that pressure into the wrist. You're starting to build the strength in the forearms and the fingers. And then going in the other direction, making a few circles. Pushing into the fingertips as you reach forward. Nice. And then we'll come to a nice neutral place. So you want the weight directly over the wrists, so basically shoulders over wrists. And then we're going to do what I like to call wrist push-ups. So we're going to keep the fingers and the knuckles on the mat. We're going to lift the thumbs up off the mat, and then we're going to lift the wrists up off the mat, and then control lowering down. So lifting the wrists up, and then control lowering down. Up, control down, up, and down. So keep going like this. And again, you can adjust how much weight is going into the hands, into the wrists, into the shoulders by bringing the knees forward to reduce the weight, walking the knees back to increase the weight. Nice. And then from here, we're going to keep the wrists off the ground, and we're going to gently roll through the knuckles. So kind of rolling over to the right and kind of peeling the knuckles up off the mat as you go, and then rolling over to the left, same thing. So the fingers stay flat on the mat, the wrists are up off the mat, and you're kind of rolling through the knuckles, getting some mobility into those joints between the fingers, between the knuckles. And keeping the weight over your wrists. So the reason you want the shoulders over the wrists for this particular exercise is because the movements that we're going to be doing, that we're building the strength for, are movements that typically shoulders are over the wrists, like a handstand, plank, when you're in tabletop. Yes? So you're building the strength in the specific position that you're going to be needing for the movements and skills that you are preparing for or warming up for. So moving on, bringing the hand flat to the mat or to the floor, we're just going to rotate the elbows forward. So hands flat, fingers spread wide, and then we're going to kind of isolate the movement of the pit of the elbows, the inside of the elbows coming forward and then rolling back, and playing around with that movement a few times. So we're getting into some movement in the shoulders and down into the wrists, Just getting some mobility in this movement. Freeing up some space, getting things moving. And then from here, if at any point you need, you can take a little break and shake the hands out. And then from here, we're going to turn the fingers to face you, face your knees, and the palms down to the floor. And then we're going to lean back into the fingertips. Similar to what we were doing before, with the fingertips facing forward, we were leaning into the fingertips. Now the fingertips are facing back and we're leaning back into the fingertips. So the whole body's kind of leaning back and forward and back and forward. Same thing goes, you can press into the fingertips gently. Notice how that feels in the wrists. Nice. Now we're going to turn the palms to face up to the sky. So the back of the hand is to the floor. Same thing, the fingertips are facing your knees. And then we're going to do the same thing. So kind of coming back into, leaning back into the fingertips, towards the fingertips. And only going as far as feels okay in the joints. There's no pain. It doesn't feel like you're pushing past any kind of discomfort. So listening to the body as you go and only going as far or as deep, or only putting as much weight as feels okay. Nice. And then the last one we're going to do, keeping the hands exactly where they are, shoulders over wrists, and then we're going to do the same rotating of the elbows. So seeing how we can move the pit of the elbows, keeping the elbows straight and rotating forward and then back and forward and then back. Nice. And then when you're done, shaking the hands out, shaking the shoulders out. And so these are 10 of my favorite wrist exercises, prep work, warm up for when I'm doing handstands, if I know I'm going to be doing a lot of plank, push-ups, arm balances where I'm on my hands a lot, any of those kind of things. So again, today we did just about 10-ish for each exercise, but as you get accustomed and comfortable and building strength, you can go upwards of 20, even 30 repetitions of each of these exercises. So I hope this was informative, helpful, useful. Thank you for joining in, and I'll see you guys in my next class, next video. One love. Namaste.